Namaskar and welcome. You're watching News Night. The fissures within the Congress party are increasingly coming to fore, with old guard, one after the other, speaking out now in open. How ineffective the grand old party Congress as an opposition has been, and much more. And on News Night tonight, we talk about how Congress continues to explode from within but refuses to learn any lessons, as one veteran after the other, they continue to spill the beans. I'm Sakal Bhatt. First up on News Night, here are the headlines. Supreme Court observes COVID-19 situation worsening, seeks report from Delhi, Maharashtra, Gujarat, Assam, asks all states to submit status report on steps taken to mitigate pandemic. Next hearing scheduled on Friday. Active COVID-19 cases in India now stand at 4,43,486. India's war against corona intensifies further. Recovery rate exceeds 93%. Union Home Minister Amit Shah inaugurates first RT PCR mobile testing van in Delhi. The central government sends teams in Himachal Pradesh, Punjab and Uttar Pradesh for COVID control. In view of the increasing cases of COVID-19, many states take strict steps. Passengers coming from Delhi, Rajasthan, Gujarat and Goa in Maharashtra will have to now show the negative report of RT-PCR. Meanwhile, all rail passengers coming to Jammu and Kashmir will have rapid antigen testing. Colleges and universities open in many states. Cabinet Secretary chairs National Crisis Management Committee meeting as Cyclone Nivar is expected to cross Tamil Nadu and Puducherry coast on Wednesday. Chief Secretaries of Andhra Pradesh, Tamil Nadu and Puducherry give details of their preparedness. NDRF on standby. Prime Minister says Parliament proceedings continued even during the pandemic with precautionary measures. Prime Minister underlines increased productivity of Parliament sessions since 2014 while inaugurating multi-storeyed green flats for MPs via video conferencing. In other news, President and Prime Minister condole the sad demise of former Assam Chief Minister Tarun Gogoi. Prime Minister Modi calls him a popular leader and veteran administrator. Gogoi was Assam's longest-serving Chief Minister. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman calls for making India a major investment hotspot. Addressing CII National MNCs Conference 2020, she stresses Atmanirbhar Bharat is to utilize all strengths collectively. Internal fighting in Congress continues. Many party veterans party leaders target Ghulam Nabi Azad after his five-star culture in progress quip, says the grievance should have been discussed within the party. And three-day bilateral maritime exercise between India and Singapore begins in Andaman Sea. SIMBEX-2020 highlights the high degree of mutual trust and confidence, synergy and cooperation between the countries. And now the lead story of the day. The Supreme Court on Monday made some scathing observations on COVID containment by states. Observing the huge spike in the current month, the Apex Court pulled up states, asking them to furnish latest status report from all states. The court further observed, and I quote, "Worse things may happen in December if states are not well prepared," unquote. Here is more.
The Supreme Court has taken cognizance of the rising number of corona cases in some states of the country. The Apex Court heard the worsening situation of corona pandemic in Delhi as well as some states of the country. The Apex Court made it clear that if precautions are not taken, then the situation may further worsen in December. The Supreme Court has asked all states to file status report on steps taken by them. The Apex Court expressed concern over the spike in corona cases in Delhi. The bench, comprising Justices Ashok Bhushan, Justice R. Subhash Reddy and Justice M.P. Shah, pulled up Delhi for the bad COVID-19 situation. The court said, "In Delhi in the past 2 weeks, the situation has worsened. Our question is, what is the present situation and what steps are being taken? what arrangements have been made in the hospitals, file a new status report as per the present situation. The Supreme Court has taken suo motu cognizance on lack of proper treatment to corona patients as well as no proper protocol being followed with regard to bodies of corona patients in hospitals. The court asked all the states to file status report within 2 days. The court said, the situation has worsened with regard to corona. If the government does not make adequate preparations, then the situation will further worsen in December. This is a time for introspection on the part of states. The states should spell out what steps being taken by them to deal with the present situation. Delhi government said that it has given directions to all hospitals to reserve beds for corona patients. Solicitor General Tushar Mehta also accepted the fact that there is a need to take more proactive steps in Delhi. In this connection, Union Home Minister held a review meeting on 13th November and issued some guidelines. The Supreme Court also questioned the Gujarat government over permission granted to the holding of marriages and ceremonies despite the rising corona cases. The matter will be heard next on Friday. Meanwhile, despite the rising corona cases in some states, there has been a rapid success seen in the battle against corona in the country. India's active caseload remains below 5% of the total cases, while recovery rate is seeing continuous improvement. India's present active caseload is 4.85% of the total positive cases and has been sustained below the 5% mark. The recovery rate continues to be above 93% as 93.68% of all cases have recovered as of date. In the last 24 hours, the country registered 41,024 new recoveries, taking the total recovered cases to 85,62,641. The gap between recovered cases and active cases is steadily increasing and presently stands at 81,19,155. India has been registering less than 50,000 cases for the last 16 days since the 8th November. 10 states UTs have contributed 78.74% of the new cases. Delhi reported 6,746 cases in the last 24 hours. Overall, the situation is under control in most states of the country, but due to winter season and some laxity, situation in some states has once again worsened. In such a scenario, following Supreme Court's intervention, state governments may have to resort to some strict and bold steps. With Vikas Sarthi, Newsnight Desk, DD India.
And in the midst of the coronavirus reported surge in several states, 41,024 recoveries were recorded just yesterday, taking the cumulative total of recovered patients crossing 85 lakh mark. And with this, the recovery rate currently stands at 93.68%, which is very clear that India's three-pronged strategy, that is testing, tracing and treating, is proving to be a great success. We have this detailed report.
India's fight against COVID-19 continues. Centre has taken various measures to tackle the situation in Delhi, which is reporting higher numbers of coronavirus infections. The number of RT PCR tests has been increased in the national capital. On Monday, Union Home Minister Amit Shah inaugurated Spice Healthcare's Mobile RT PCR testing lab. Health Minister Dr. Harshvardhan joined the inauguration ceremony held at ICMR headquarters in Delhi. The move is aimed at strengthening the fight against COVID-19. The Home Minister also visited the ICMR headquarters. DG ICMR, Dr. Balram Bhargav, was also present on this occasion. The centre has dispatched teams to Himachal Pradesh, Punjab and Uttar Pradesh to help contain coronavirus in these states. States have been asked to increase the number of tests. In many states, night curfew has been imposed to contain the spread. In Maharashtra, the state government has issued SOP on preventive measures to contain the spread of COVID-19. As per the SOP, domestic passengers travelling from airports in Delhi, Rajasthan, Gujarat, Goa will now have to carry RT PCR negative test report with them and show at the arrival airport. Passengers not having test reports will have to compulsory undergo test at airport at their own cost. All passengers travelling to Maharashtra by trains originating or having stop or halt at stations in the NCR of Delhi, Rajasthan, Gujarat and Goa shall carry with them negative RT-PCR test report before they enter Maharashtra. For road travel, the concerned district collectors of land border districts will make arrangements to ensure that passengers coming from the above-mentioned states will be tested for symptoms including body temperature. In another development, in Maharashtra, after remaining closed for nearly 8 months, schools from class 9th to 12th reopened from Monday. However, schools in Mumbai under BMC jurisdiction, Nashik, Pune, Pimpri Chinchwad will remain shut till further orders. In Uttar Pradesh, colleges and universities reopened from Monday. However, only 50% of the students will be allowed to attend the classes at a time. Social distancing, thermal scanning, availability of face mask, sanitizer and hand wash facilities will be mandatory.
यहाँ पे सेकेंड ईयर का जो प्रोसीजर चल रहा है एडमिशन का, उसके लिए मैं यहाँ पे आया था। ऑनलाइन क्लासेस सारी चल रही थी, अभी ऑफलाइन क्लासेस स्टार्ट होने वाले हैं।
While in Karnataka, the state government has postponed reopening of schools up to class 12th till December end. The health experts have warned that the coronavirus infections might rise during winter season. In such a scenario, few simple precautions can help us to avoid getting infected. Newsnight Desk, DD India.
And more important information coming in that there's will be no cost to the public, no cost will be incurred to the public for getting tested at the mobile lab launched by the Home Minister today, the mobile lab launched by the government today. This cost will be actually borne by the ICMR, adding that to that important report that we showed you. And now staying with COVID-19 related news, moving on to the news on the vaccine development front. Even when the world awaits COVID-19 vaccine with bated breath, British Health Secretary has made a very strong pitch for AstraZeneca vaccine's efficiency and its immediate impact on public health emergency, with British Prime Minister hailing this as an incredible piece of exciting news. Here's a detailed report.
The University of Oxford and AstraZeneca said on Monday that their COVID-19 vaccine could be around 90% effective without any serious side effects, giving the world yet another important tool to halt the COVID-19 pandemic. Andrew Pollard, director of the Oxford Vaccine Group, said there was also evidence that the vaccine was effective against asymptomatic transmission of the virus.
We've got a vaccine which is highly effective. It prevents severe disease and hospitalization. And intriguingly in the results, although the headline is 70% protection, we do have a subgroup who got a half dose as the first dose and then a full dose as the second dose, where we saw 90% protection.
But scientists caution against seeing this as evidence that it would be less useful than rival vaccines from Pfizer and Moderna, which each prevented about 95% of cases according to data this month.
The vaccine is not very expensive to manufacture, and also no profit will be made during the pandemic period, which also helps to keep the price of this vaccine very low.
While British Prime Minister Boris Johnson hailed the incredibly exciting news, the nation's Health Secretary Matt Hancock said that the UK government had 100 million doses on order for a rollout next year, pending regulatory approval. Hancock set out a timeline where the vaccine would start being rolled out in December, with the hope that life would start to get back to normal by Easter next year. Meanwhile, across the English Channel, in Germany, IDT Biologica plans to start a phase 2 trial of its experimental COVID-19 vaccine by the end of the year, and the company hopes to be able to apply for approval in 2021. Germany plans to buy at least 5 million COVID-19 vaccine doses from IDT and has decided to make an upfront payment of 30 million euros. Newsnight Desk, DD India.
In other news, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has said that the term of the 16th Lok Sabha has been historically significant for the progress and development of the country. Prime Minister Modi, in fact, today inaugurated multi-storied flats for members of parliament through video conferencing on Monday. We have this detailed report.
Accommodation for the members of parliament has been a long-standing problem, but it is now being solved progressively by the NDA government. Prime Minister Narendra Modi inaugurated multi-storied flats for members of parliament through video conference on Monday. These flats are located at Dr. B.D. Marg in New Delhi. 8 old bungalows, which were more than 80 years old, have been redeveloped to construct 76 flats. Green building norms have been incorporated in the flats for the members of parliament. Prime Minister hoped that these new flats will keep all the residents and the MPs safe and sound. He said that decades-old problems don't end by avoiding them, but by finding solutions.
दशकों से चली आ रही समस्याएं टालने से नहीं, उनका समाधान खोजने से समाप्त होती है। सिर्फ सांसदों के निवास ही नहीं, बल्कि यहां दिल्ली में ऐसे अनेकों प्रोजेक्ट्स थे जो कई वर्षों से अधूरे थे, लटके पड़े थे। कई इमारतों का निर्माण इस सरकार के दौरान ही शुरू हुआ और तय समय से पहले समाप्त भी हुआ।
Prime Minister said that the term of the 16th Lok Sabha has been historically significant for the progress and development of the country. He expressed confidence that the next Lok Sabha will also play a very important role in taking the country forward into the new decade.
2019 के चुनाव के साथ ही हमने 16वीं लोकसभा का कार्यकाल पूरा किया है। ये समय देश की प्रगति के लिए, देश के विकास के लिए बहुत ही ऐतिहासिक रहा है। 2019 के बाद से 70वीं लोकसभा का कार्यकाल शुरू हुआ है। इस दौरान भी देश ने जैसे निर्णय लिए हैं, जो कदम उठाए हैं, उनसे ये लोकसभा अभी ही इतिहास में दर्ज हो गई है। अब इसके बाद 18वीं लोकसभा होगी। मुझे विश्वास है अगली लोकसभा भी देश को नए दशक में आगे ले जाने के लिए बहुत महत्वपूर्ण भूमिका निभाएगी।
During his address, Prime Minister also talked about the farm reform bills and said that the government also introduced many labor reforms to spruce up the industrial investments. Prime Minister remarked that all MPs have taken care of both the products and the process in the productivity of Parliament and have attained a new height in this direction.
16वीं लोकसभा ने पहले की तुलना में 15% ज्यादा बिल्स पास किए। 70वीं लोकसभा के पहले सत्र में तय समय से 135% काम हुआ। राज्यसभा ने भी 100% काम किया।
Prime Minister praised the Lok Sabha Speaker for his stewardship of the House in a productive and procedurally sound way. He expressed happiness that Parliament proceedings continued even during the pandemic with new regulations and several precautionary measures. Prime Minister added that both houses worked even on weekends for ensuring smooth proceedings in the monsoon session.
बहुत-बहुत धन्यवाद।
News 9 Desk, TV India.
And now moving on to the in focus story of tonight. Well, it is no more Congress party's worst kept secret. The old guard versus new guard and the coterie politics within the party exploding further. After former Union Minister and once Congress loyalist Kapil Sibal spilled the beans some days ago, another Gandhi loyalist and Congress veteran who also happens to be former Union Minister, Ghulam Nabi Azad, exposing Congress to the core. Is the party listening? That's the big question.
After a massive drubbing in Bihar elections, there seems to be no end to internal wrangling within the grand old party. After being decimated in most of the states, it's now at the receiving end with a lot of criticism and flack coming from the very own. Coming close on the heels of former Union Minister and senior Congress leader Kapil Sibal spilling the beans of coterie politics, another Congress bigwig and known Gandhi loyalist Ghulam Nabi Azad questioned the functioning of the party, further exposing the fissures within. After humiliating defeat in Bihar Assembly elections, Ghulam Nabi Azad finally broke his silence. Lambasting the five-star culture within the party, Azad attacked the party leadership, calling out their complete disconnect from the ground realities and common people.
जो लोग वहाँ होते हैं उनका कनेक्ट टूट गया लोगों के साथ, वो ब्लॉक लोगों के साथ कनेक्ट टूट गया है, डिस्ट्रिक्ट लोगों के साथ कनेक्शन टूट गया है। दवाई है पार्टी के लिए कि आप जो लीडर चुन के आए उनको ये 5 स्टार कल्चर छोड़ देना पड़ेगा।
In recently concluded assembly elections in Bihar, Congress contested on 70 seats and managed to win only 19. Azad further reiterated the urgent need for internal rejig for the party to survive. Azad clarified that he is making such strong statements and flagging critical issues as a reformist and not a rebel.
एक ही दवाई है पार्टी के लिए कि आप ब्लॉक लेवल के इलेक्शन करें, डिस्ट्रिक्ट लेवल के इलेक्शन करें, पीसीसी के इलेक्शन करें। आज मैं दोष नहीं दूंगा लीडरशिप को क्योंकि आज हो नहीं सकते, लेकिन करने होंगे। ये एक दवाई है, बहुत बड़ी दवाई है।
Prior to this, Kapil Sibal, another senior Congress leader, in an interview to National Daily, opened up on top leadership. He said, there is an urgent need for introspection for the party's leadership. Organizationally, we know what is wrong. As an opposition, we are weaker. There seems to be no effort for a dialogue by the leadership. Ghulam Nabi Azad and Kapil Sibal are among 23 signatories of the Congress party who strongly pitched in for organizational changes in a letter written to Congress President Sonia Gandhi. Although soon after the letter bomb was dropped, Congress went into a complete disarray and Ghulam Nabi Azad was stripped of his post of National General Secretary. Within the ranks and file of the party, some Congress leaders lashed out at the party veterans for speaking openly about organizational issues in public domain.
देखिए, उनका कहना किसी हद तक सही है, लेकिन वो भी इसके लिए जिम्मेदार हैं, हम भी उसके लिए जिम्मेदार हैं। जो कांग्रेस के अंदर जो भी जिनको भी कांग्रेस लीडरशिप की तरफ से जिम्मेदारी दी गई, अगर हम लोग सब अपनी अपनी जिम्मेदारी का निर्वाह करते तो शायद कांग्रेस की ये नौबत नहीं आती। तो मैं समझता हूँ कि जो कुछ हुआ उसको ध्यान में रखते हुए आगे कैसे उसमें सुधार हो सकता है, उसके लिए कोशिश करनी चाहिए।
As Congress struggles to contain the internal rift and embarrassment, BJP launched a renewed attack on the Congress.
कांग्रेस एक डूबता हुआ जहाज बनता जा रहा है और लीडरशिप को बिल्कुल ध्यान नहीं है। उन्होंने जो गुलाम नबी आज़ाद जी ने महत्वपूर्ण बात की कि स्ट्रक्चर डिस्ट्रॉय हुआ है। जब से कांग्रेस में गांधी परिवार हावी हुआ है, इंदिरा गांधी के बाद पूरा स्ट्रक्चर कांग्रेस के अंदर डिस्ट्रॉय किया गया एक सिस्टमेटिकली तरीके से।
कांग्रेस के जो वरिष्ठ नेता है उनको भी लगता है कि राहुल गांधी की जो कार्य पद्धति है, जिस तरह की उनकी अनमेच्योर जो बयानबाजी है, जिससे कहीं ना कहीं देश में भी कांग्रेस की छवि खराब होती है और अंतर्राष्ट्रीय मंचों पर जिस तरह से वो बयानबाजी करते हैं, चाहे चीन हो चाहे पाकिस्तान हो, उसको लेकर भी जो कांग्रेस के वरिष्ठ नेता हैं उनको असहज महसूस होता है।
After successive electoral drubbing in assembly elections and internal dissent and fissures now becoming increasingly public, coupled with string of electoral reverses, particularly in Bihar, some serious questions are now being raised on party high command leadership, and amidst this, chorus grows for change and introspection at the top. Newsnight Desk, Lead India.
So after Kapil Sibal, it's Ghulam Nabi Azad not only slamming five-star culture in the Congress, but also asking for some serious introspection. And remember, this is coming close on the heels of another party veteran, Kapil Sibal, spilling the beans last week. In fact, in focus tonight, we talk about the fissures and the rift within the Congress as they get further exposed. We talk about the Congress's internal rebellion imploding further. And on the show, on Newsnight tonight, we are joined by eminent panel. Yes, we have with us Shana NC, leader BJP, joining us on the show, and also Chetan Singh, political analyst who continues to defend Congress on various political shows, joining us on Doordarshan. And we also very glad to have with us senior and veteran journalist R. Raja Gopalan. And I'm going to start the show with Chetan Singh. Shana, I'm going to come to you, and sir also to you. But Chetan Singh, why is it that your grand old Congress party refuses to learn any lessons, refuses to do any sort of introspection, especially no right feedback to the leadership, and this is, mind you, coming from the Congress loyalists. Why is it that whenever they talk about the overhauling of the Congress's organizational structure, the party high command goes silent?
Look, Shakal, we need to understand here categorically, when we have a democratic party, a democratic organization where people have their own say. So
you call Congress a democratic party, then why was Ghulam Nabi Azad ripped off his his position?
All right. So if you can give me 40 seconds to
quickly
respond,
and
be able to make this. All right. So having said this, Ghulam Nabi ji is a towering leader, undoubtedly. When he was the chief minister of Srinagar, Jammu and Kashmir, we have seen what exactly has happened. The terrorism was at its lowest and development was at its highest. When it comes down to this specific point, we need to understand, in a democratic setup, people have their own say. And on the top of it, in a democratic setup, there is a lot of dialogue which takes place.
Hasn't Congress sunk into its lowest ebb in terms of numbers, Shaina? And see if you could quickly respond to Chetan. And this G23 group of dissenters. Now, this story, it seems that it is a tip of an iceberg. And after that, Shaina, you remember there was a CWC and everything in the Congress went into disarray. And they're behaving as if everything is fine.
Look, you can sort out a problem first if you introspect and if you accept that there is a problem. They are in absolute denial. This sinking of the ship has happened time and again, election after election, and now the ship has sunk. And the sad part is there is nobody to lead. If you have a democratic setup where senior leaders like Ghulam Nabi Azad or Kapil Sibbal raise serious questions on the leadership, they are just axed immediately. Their posts are dropped and they are told to go home. Now look at the results in Bihar. You fight 70 seats and you don't even win 19. What does this say about the acceptability of your leadership?
In 1984, you had only 2 seats.
Then that denial is going to be your biggest problem, because in a scenario such as this in India, in a democracy, what does one expect? One expects discipline in the cadre, yes, but the cadre should be allowed to at least express who they believe is the correct leadership. And they have to think beyond this Gandhi name and surname.
Yes,
whether it's Sonia Gandhi, Rahul Gandhi, Priyanka Gandhi,
look,
think
first and foremost, first and foremost, in an autocratic setup, in a democratic setup, it's a huge difference. What he is talking about the
Shaina, let him explain. So, एक second, Chetan. Yes, Shaina, he's trying to draw a parallel between a democratic setup and an autocratic setup. If Congress, no, hold on. Are you saying that Congress is not an autocratic setup? If Congress is not an autocratic setup, somebody who has given his entire life, I'm talking about Ghulam Nabi Azad, why was he ripped off his position? What about the absentee leadership point that was raised in that leaked letter signed by 23 signatories?
That's a very important question to be answered at this given point of time. Let me explain it to you. Look, Ghulam Nabi ji, at this given point of time,
the show is not about Ghulam Nabi ji. The show is about how conveniently when couples. No, we're discussing.
See, we have also seen Ram Madhav ji.
Why is there a sense of reluctance to accept it, Chetan? Chetan, we need a strong opposition in a democracy. Where is the opposition, Chetan?
See, opposition you're going to talk about in 1984, BJP was only reduced to 2 seats. So therefore, it is a matter of a time.
Rajagopalan,
we have seen in Bihar election what exactly has happened.
We have a veteran journalist here, Rajagopalan. Shaina, coming to you. Shaina, I'm coming to you. Shaina, I'm coming to you. Rajagopalan ji, please go ahead. Shaina, 1 second. Yes, Rajagopalan.
My understanding of Congress is the leadership is not serious. Madam Sonia Gandhi is not keeping a good health. At times, she goes off because of her ill health. Second thing, her son, Mr. Rahul Gandhi, is not serious. During the election time of Bihar, Madam Bhatt, can you understand? He goes to Simla for a vacation. That is what Satyanand Tiwari of RJD, Rashtriya Janata Dal, pointed out. Second thing, when Ghulam Nabi Azad and Kapil Sibbal are raising banner of revolt, Jairam Ramesh says Congress is in existential crisis. P. Chidambaram says we cannot fight Mr. Narendra Modi with a weak leadership of Rahul Gandhi. Second thing, Rahul Gandhi, having been a very senior MP of 15 years standing, Madam Bhatt, I tell you, he goes to Supreme Court to apologize. he goes to Hathras and
but he
says
lost
something.
his plum constituency. What seniority
Amity,
and political merit of a certain Rahul Gandhi are we talking about?
Amity gone. Therefore, my understanding is Mr. Chetan Singh is a very good friend of mine. He must understand he is in the wrong party and he is supporting a wrong party because he has age before him. He should understand what is the benefit because today in private channel.
Let's talk on facts. Okay, so point taken. Chetan, simple question.
Give me 1 minute.
Yes, sir. Sure, go ahead. Yes.
Give me 1 minute, madam. In Parliament, there are 44 MPs in 2014 and 52 in 2019. What is the contribution towards that one? He has not improved anything. The debate has not been improved. And on foreign policy, he has failed. On defense policies, he says Rafale was a chore like that, and he apologized to the Supreme Court. Therefore, he has
then China obsession is a different debate, sir. The China obsession is a different debate. Chetan, simple. Let's not go to 80s. Let's just go back to Bihar last month. The opposition, the Mahagathbandhan, was in shambles thanks to Congress.
Okay. So you see, like, if you're going to talk about Raj Gopalanji, what he has said,
Talk about Bihar.
Okay, Bihar. I'm going to talk about the Bihar only.
Okay.
First, Rahul Gandhi is not a prime minister of this country. There are a lot of serious issues in this country, and those issues are not getting addressed. I need to go talk about Bihar.
Classic case of deflecting. Chetan, I said talk about Bihar. I want you to talk about Bihar. On how many seats you contested and on how many seats Congress won. Let's talk about that and the able leadership of Rahul Gandhi.
I agree to you with regards to the Bihar. There was a limited campaigning by Rahul Gandhi ji, and other Gandhi could not go down there. And other Gandhis could not go down there.
Why was there a limited campaign? Does he not owe this to the people of the country?
Give me at least 10 seconds to respond. Give me at least 20 seconds to respond.
Okay.
So he was given 76. He got only 19.
Raj Gopalanji, I know your ideology. You have a problem with your ideology. You are a very renowned, you are a very good journalist. I respect you, sir. But the ideology is the problem with you out here. You're inclined towards BJP. So therefore, you're always attacking Congress or the Gandhis. So when you talk about Bihar, we have seen what exactly has happened. In Tejasvi Yadav rally, in all the Mahagathbandhan rally, we have seen the number of crowd. People have voted for Mahagathbandhan. But at the end, what exactly has changed? People are concerned with what exactly has changed. What has changed? There was no crowd in BJP rallies when their political star campaigners came from Delhi. There were no people.
Come back to that.
How come they have lost it?
Okay, you lost Bihar. Your sphere of influence is diminishing. Give me a state. Give me one state where you have no issues to deal with. You know what's happening in Congress. Shanak, please come in with your point here.
See, this is not some ordinary karyakarta that's making a point. Absolutely. You have senior leaders, Kapil Sibal, saying that it's time to introspect. You have Ghulam Nabi Azad saying, I'm not a rebel, but please understand we need a change of guard. You have Mr. Chidambaram speaking at a forum. You have somebody else having an opinion saying that there's time to revamp. You have the own leadership in the younger lot, whether it's a Sachin Pilot, a Milind Deora, Jyotiraditya has already left the party. So obviously there is trouble in paradise. And the first step for any political party is to introspect. I'm not here to sit and comment on what the Congress party is doing right or wrong. Fortunately, we have the most fantastic accepted leader in the world today called Prime Minister Narendra Modi. So it's going to be a tough fight. But this ship has sunk and gone are the days of believing that the Congress party is going to be able
that's the reason our COVID number has gone down to 1 crore, around 1 crore, 1 lakh deaths have already taken place in our country.
Oh, please, sir, we have handled COVID even better than all countries.
We know where are we standing with regards to the foreign relations.
I don't think we need a certificate from you. If you can even handle just your party, forget a vision plan, it'll be great.
To any country at this
the Prime Minister,
we should not be a
hard work
of aspirational India is known to one and all.
Okay, Shana, you've made your point. Rajagopalan, sir.
The contents of the letter of 23 leaders of Congress says hold elections.
Yes.
In the Congress party. We don't want a nominated president. What is the cause of Mr. Ghulam Nabi Azad to
Can I answer to this?
Simple. Yes, please answer to this. Because you said Congress has a democratic style of functioning.
When will the elections be held?
So you see, like, I really respect Raj Gopalanji. Can he answer that how many times How many times when Congress was in power, Gandhi was the Prime Minister? How many times when Congress has been there in power or not in power, the president were Gandhis or non-Gandhis? Can you answer this? The facts and figures are in front of us. So these kind of allegations are not going to do any good. This is the personal hatred, vendetta, and these are concocted, baseless facts which they are trying to peddle it in the heart and the mind of the ordinary people to divert the attention from these core issues. This is a divergent technique. This is what I'm going to talk about. These divergent
arguments need to have some sort of substance. Who has vendetta against whom? Kapil Sibal has a vendetta.
No.
Sachin Pilot has a vendetta. Ashok Gehlot has a vendetta. Ghulam Nabi Azad has a vendetta. Anand Sharma has a vendetta. Everybody has a vendetta. Who has a vendetta?
Okay. So when you're going to talk about these senior leaders, they are towering personalities, as I've said in the beginning, and specifically Ghulam Nabi ji, when he was the Chief Minister of Jammu and Kashmir, has done a great job. But when Gandhi ji was there, Mahatma Gandhi ji was there, and in Kolkata Adhiveshan, he has cleaned the toilets. He has cleaned the toilets. Who has told him and who has not stopped him? Who is stopping him to work on his jobs? So why these people are not taking up these responsibility, going down to the state, and they are not working on the core issues? Tell me, why are they not working in terms of developing the party?
A renewed script for TV debates. I'm sorry.
Chetan,
I am saying
Shine, I'm coming to you. Rajagopalan, sir. Okay, Chetan. Okay. Yes, Rajagopalan.
For the last 10 years, people have rejected Congress. There is nowhere Congress had lost, minimum of deposit. In 19 constituencies in Bihar, Congress lost deposit. Apart from that, people have been rejecting state after state. Why? Congress should introspect. That is the reason Ghulam Nabi Azad and Kapil Sibal have been demanding. Suppose if you exceeded the limit, they suspended. Maximum what Congress can do is the leader gets suspended.
Remember about Chhattisgarh, Madhya Pradesh, and what exactly has happened in Rajasthan? These three states have gone from your hand at once. And still you have seen what exactly has happened. So therefore, it is a matter of time. The Congress will certainly go to bounce back.
You cannot earn. You cannot earn even a deposit in your election, Chetan. You must introspect. That is what Ghulam Nabi Azad is demanding. Congress Working Committee, you elect. Don't nominate. We want an elected president.
Yes. Go ahead, Chetan.
Can I now?
I'm coming to you. I'm coming to Shaina. I'm just very intrigued to know how Chetan is going to respond to this. Yes, Chetan.
All right. So we have seen that what exactly has happened after 2014 till this date. We have seen they have lost. The elections have taken place in 13 states, and out of these 13 states, BJP has lost 9. How they have formed the power in 5 states? It is a matter of concern. We know how they got the power in Madhya Pradesh.
Sir,
we know how they got the power in Goa. We all know that. So therefore, this kind of a mathematical, calculative mind which they are using it behind the scenes is something that people have understood
now. I promise I come to you. Just give me 10 seconds. Chetan, just answer this question in yes or no. Do you agree that Congress has, finally reached its lowest ebb in the last 72 years?
See, absolutely yes. But 84 also BJP was only reduced to 2 seats.
Yes. But then
BJP was reduced to 2 seats. Why don't you also talk about it?
Acknowledge that a systematic overhaul is required, Shaina, and
absolutely required.
And they still say that they are a democratic party. Shaina, okay, let me quickly respond here.
For an overhaul, there needs to be acceptance.
My job was to ask a very neutral question, and you have answered that. Yes, Shaina, please go ahead.
For an overall, there needs to be acceptance. Look at the response. First, there is absolute deflecting. We are talking about Mahatma Gandhi and we are in 2020. You talk about the millennials, you talk about aspirational India. They have moved beyond this so-called legacy or self-proclaimed dynasty that exists only in the Congress and nowhere beyond. do understand that if you are making a change today and you are going out and seeking new age voters, they want to know what is your plan, what is the development agenda. Why does Prime Minister Modi appeal to every strata of society, be it women or be it youth or be it aspirational India? Because he is talking about what he proposes to do and what he has done. It's trial tested and actions speak louder than words. He keeps saying he's a Pradhan Sevak. Where is the
whole world is watching us. The whole world is watching us, what we have reached
to the forest
agenda.
And they are only
The whole
protecting
nation
each other, and anyone who speaks up is
Shana, I need to wrap it up.
A senior leader like Ghulam Nabi Azad is axed.
Okay,
Ghulam Nabi Azad ji is fine. Your focus, your dedication, your commitment
Final
towards
comment,
something which is making the entire nation suffer. 135 crore people have given you the mandate not to target the opposition. You have to work on the ground which you have failed it.
But where
the
is
COVID
the
failure is something which people are going to remember it. The economic failure is something people are going to remember it. The farmers, the kind of attacks, the kind of
70 years or so.
Farmers are very happy.
Chetan Singh, where is the opposition when you don't have numbers to back you, Chetan Singh? Where is the opposition? And that's exactly the moot point of the debate.
In democratic setup, people are supreme.
Forget about
and people
BJP.
will certainly going to teach them a lesson. The way they are trying to, come up with a diabolic, divergent
Rajagopalan, sir, final word. Okay. Rajagopalan, sir, final word.
My understanding is Congress should have an election, internal elections.
That they will never have.
Should not. That is one. Second thing, I don't see 2024 Rahul Gandhi is being considered as a prime ministerial candidate. Therefore, Congress lost his grain. Rest in peace, Congress.
Rest in peace. On that note, thank you very much, Shana NC, BJP spokesperson, BJP leader, for joining us from Mumbai. Also, thank you, Chetan Singh. Chetan Singh, you need some more substantive, solid counter arguments. I'm sorry, but thank you so much for joining us on DD News, and very, very glad to have Rajagopalan, sir, senior journalist, for joining us. Thank you, all of you. And now let's move on and talk about the other story that we are tracking for you on News 9. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman virtually chaired the CII National MNCs Conference today. She emphasized on the government's efforts that have led to swift resetting of industries after times of crisis. She also credited the Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan to the current government.
Today, industry has really gone through the phase of completely shutting down every activity. When the attempts to open up, and now of course opened up almost near 100%, have opened up after doing a lot of introspection, most of them are looking at resetting the way in which they have been doing business all these years. So now, not just the MNCs, not just the Indian INC, the Indian Inc., but also the entire economy, big, small, medium, are all clearly facing a reset exercise. And that reset is only being strengthened by the government's Atmanirbhar Bharat.
As the dust settles on the US presidential campaign polls, and it is becoming clearer that Joe Biden will take over as the next president of United States of America, news is in now filtering over his possible choices for key positions. Antony Blinken could be the US Secretary of State under Joe Biden. Well, according to the news agency Reuters, close ally of President-elect Biden has said that Blinken, who is a long-time confidant of Joe Biden, could be named to be named to be taking over this next coveted post this week itself.
U.S. veteran diplomat Antony Blinken, who served as number 2 at the State Department and as Deputy National Security Advisor in the Obama administration, is U.S. President-elect Joe Biden's most likely pick to be Secretary of State, a Biden ally said on Sunday. A Biden ally who did not want to be identified told Reuters Blinken was Biden's most likely choice and an announcement was expected as soon as this week. Blinken is a long-time confidant of Biden. In an interview with Reuters in October, Blinken said the United States must not cede its leadership role in the world. The New York City-born, Harvard-educated Blinken practiced law briefly and entered politics in the late 1980s, helping Michael Dukakis's presidential campaign raise money. He joined Democratic President Bill Clinton's White House as a speechwriter and became one of his national security aides. Under Obama, Blinken worked to limit most U.S. combat deployments to small numbers of troops, but he told Reuters last year that Trump gutted American credibility with his pullback of U.S. troops in Syria that left Kurdish U.S. allies in the lurch in their fight against Islamic State. On the campaign trail, Blinken was one of Biden's closest advisors, even on issues that went beyond foreign policy. That trust is the product of the years Blinken worked alongside Biden as an advisor to his unsuccessful 2008 presidential campaign, his national security advisor early in his vice presidency, and as the Democratic staff director of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee when Biden was chair. Newsnight Desk, DD India.
Back home, former Assam Chief Minister and veteran Congress leader Tarun Gogoi passed away this evening at Guwahati Medical College and Hospital. The health condition of the former Assam Chief Minister and veteran Congress leader Tarun Gogoi, in fact, has been deteriorating steadily since his admission. Reports suggest the former Chief Minister had suffered multi-organ failure. He was then put in ventilation at Guwahati Medical College and Hospital. The worsening health and passing away of Gogoi has been attributed to post-COVID-19 complications.
Former Chief Minister of Assam, Sri Tarun Gogoi, left this world at 5:34 p.m. today after prolonged illness. The doctors and the medical fraternity tried their best, but we could not get him back.
Meanwhile, President Ramnath Kovind has expressed condolences over the demise of Tarun Gogoi. In a tweet, the president said, and I quote, "Extremely sad to know of the demise of Sri Tarun Gogoi, former Chief Minister of Assam. The country has lost a veteran leader with rich political and administrative experience. His long tenure in office was a period of change in Assam. He will always be remembered for the development of Assam, and especially towards his efforts to improve law and order and fighting insurgency in the state." His passing away marks the end of an era. In this hour of grief, condolences to his family, friends and supporters. Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu also condoled the demise of Tarun Gogoi. In a tweet, he said, and I quote, "Deeply saddened to learn about the demise of former Chief Minister of Assam, Sri Tarun Gogoi. In his public life spanning over 5 decades, he served the nation in various capacities with dedication. My condolences to bereaved family members and followers. Om Shanti." Unquote. Prime Minister Narendra Modi in a condolence tweet said, and I quote again, "Sri Tarun Gogoi ji was a popular leader and a veteran administrator who had years of political experience in Assam as well as the centre. Anguished by his passing away, my thoughts are with his family and supporters in this hour of sadness. Om Shanti." Unquote. And now all the weather update for India in this detailed report.
North India is experiencing a sudden chill in the air. The Met Department has further predicted that the mercury levels will drop further across North India over the next few days. It has warned that India will have a colder winter than usual this year because of the La Nina factor. Noting that a fresh western disturbance is approaching northwest India, the weatherman has predicted that a cold wave will hit the region in early December, due to which the minimum temperature will stay 4.5 degrees below normal. Meanwhile, the holy Badrinath Dham and the ski resort of Oli in Chamoli district of Uttarakhand have received fresh snowfall. The higher reaches of Pir Panjal range also got covered in a blanket of snow following fresh snowfall. The Mughal road has been closed. According to the Met Department, heavy rain and snowfall would occur at isolated places in Kashmir over the next 3 days, under the influence of a western disturbance. Light to moderate rain and snow is also expected to occur at most places in the valley. Ladakh and Gilgit-Baltistan would experience isolated to scattered rain and snowfall. IMD has also predicted that a low-pressure area in the Bay of Bengal will intensify into a cyclonic storm during the next 24 hours, which will lead to rainfall in Puducherry, Chennai, Odisha and West Bengal. The IMD has advised fishermen not to venture out in the sea. The well-marked low-pressure area over southwest Bay of Bengal is very likely to intensify further into a cyclonic storm during the next 24 hours and move towards Tamil Nadu-Puducherry coast. It is likely to cross between Karaikal and Mamalapuram by November 25th afternoon.
The depression over southwest Bay of Bengal now lies at about 520 km southeast of Chennai. It is very likely to intensify into cyclonic storm, subsequently very severe cyclonic storm. And as per the current and based on the current conditions, it is expected to move in northwesterly direction and approach North Tamil Nadu Puducherry coast, and expected to cross between Karaikal and Mahamalapuram by 25th afternoon.
NDRF has deployed teams of rescue personnel in Tamil Nadu and Puducherry ahead of Cyclone Nivar. The teams dispatched for Tamil Nadu are being deployed in Cuddalore and Chidambaram. Cabinet Secretary Rajiv Gauba on Monday chaired a meeting of the National Crisis Management Committee to review the status of impending cyclone with the Chief Secretaries of Andhra Pradesh, Tamil Nadu and Puducherry via video conferencing. Newsnight Desk, DD India.
The pandemic and the prospects of an uneven and uncertain economic recovery were at the center of a two-day online summit under the chairmanship of Saudi Arabia, which will hand the G20 presidency to Italy next month. Leaders of the G20 20 biggest economies vowed to spare no effort to supply COVID-19 drugs, tests and vaccines affordable and fairly to all people, reflecting worries that the pandemic could deepen divisions between the world's rich and poor. More in World Update. White House National Security Advisor Robert O'Brien visited Philippines for a meeting and a discussion with leaders over regional security collaboration and the importance of Southeast Asia to the United States. Washington pledged to provide the Philippines with 18.4 million worth of precision-guided missiles this year to use in its fight against terrorists in the South. The missiles are being funded under a U.S. Congress Act that allows the Defense Department to train and equip foreign armies allied with Washington to fight terrorists across the world since 2006. Mexico's famed mariachi musicians serenaded their patron saint on Sunday, but the songs and celebrations were a bit more muted this year due to the coronavirus pandemic. Hundreds of mariachis normally feat Saint Cecilia, the patron saint of musicians, with a parade through Mexico City streets to the massive Basilica of Our Lady of Guadalupe. This year, though, the musicians had to make do with a small ceremony. Mariachis originated in the 19th century in the western state of Jalisco, where they performed at festivals and weddings. Taylor Swift was named Artist of the Year at the American Music Awards on Sunday. She won 2 other trophies in a ceremony held live in Los Angeles amid tight coronavirus curbs. It was Swift's record 6th win of the top prize at the fan-voted show, although she was absent from the ceremony, and thanks fans on video for their support of her surprise lockdown album Folklore. Canadians Justin Bieber and The Weeknd were the other big winners with 3 awards each. And the most beautiful avenue of Paris, the Champs-Élysées, turned bright red for the Christmas season on Sunday, while the country remains under lockdown to slow the spread of coronavirus. The event was held with only a handful of people, including Paris mayor, who said Paris will remain a celebration. With the second lockdown this year, the avenue, usually busy before Christmas, is desperately empty. Figures in the last few days have shown spread is slowing in the country. Well, Patrick Quinn, whose personal battle with ALS helped power the Ice Bucket Challenge fundraising campaign, died on Sunday at the age of 37, 7 years after his diagnosis. Quinn was co-founder of the campaign that raised more than $220 million for medical research into amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, more commonly known as Lou Gehrig's disease. The Ice Bucket Challenge went viral on social media in summer of 2014 when people around the world posted videos and photos of themselves dumping buckets of ice water on their heads and challenging others to do the same while urging donations for ALS research. Among Quinn's many honors for raising awareness of ALS and promoting research was a nomination with fellow ALS activist Peter Freites as Person of the Year by the Time magazine. Freites died last year at the age of 34, 7 years after his diagnosis. Well, let's end this edition of Newsnight with the shots that you might think are straight from some Indian city. But no. Hungry monkeys feeding on whatever they could lay their hands on in view of the coronavirus restrictions that meant fewer tourists and less food for the days. But this scene is from Thailand. Monkeys, hungry for food, were literally overwhelmed Take a look. Well, not just food, but soothing music. While on tour in central Thailand, British musician Paul Barton was a rock star to hundreds of hungry wild monkeys. They were instantly drawn to Barton's rendition of Greensleeves, Beethoven's Far-Elise and Michael Nyman's Diary of Love. And we end this edition of News Night with these visuals. Tonight, watch this soothing video rather. The music and the shots both complement each other just perfectly. And don't forget to wear your mask, social distancing and hand washing. Thanks for tuning in. Namaskar.